Good afternoon. Are you guys hearing me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I
Okay.
can hear.
So we have Sheldon and we have Nelson.
Well, it's Chris Stokes. Yeah, I see the
Chris
show about
Stokes.
Nelson, but Nelson is fine. Yeah.
All right. No, Chris is
Yeah.
good. Jason Scott, not here as yet. Am I gonna assume that we're live?
That's a very good question.
It's a very good question. I was trying to call somebody, but okay, we'll go live in 3 seconds. I mean, right here.
Okay.
Yeah.
We won't be able to see how many people are on or anything
I'm
of that
trying.
nature.
So this platform is new to me,
Yes.
Special window. They can see and hear. So we're good.
Okay. All right. Welcome everybody. Our topic is jobs of the future in robotics and STEM. And we have a good cast to support us in discussing this topic. We have Jason, I heard you a while ago. No, Jason.
No, he's not here.
No,
You would see it on the screen.
He's
Oh, he'll be one
he's
of them,
not
yeah.
here. But we have Chris Stokes, the founder and executive chairman of NCS Enterprises. But Chris, I know you from the Jamaica bobsled team in creating
Indeed.
waves. I mean, they made a movie about
Yes.
you. A multi-million US dollar movie about you.
Yes.
And I also remember, you might not know this, I remember you were one of those who pioneered mobile wallets in Jamaica before its time.
You remember that?
I remember that. So you are a future.
All right.
You are
Still
a
in the space.
futuristic person.
Oh, yes.
Right? So where in terms of the future of jobs, I mean, you can probably speak to way out there and bring it back in for us, And we do have.
Yes,
go ahead. All right, let me just.
Please finish the introduction.
Yeah, man. Then we have Jason Scott.
Hi, everyone. Sorry.
That's so boy, good more pretty man. Love
it.
Man,
I have to fix up.
Love it, yeah, man. Love it, man. The deputy president of the Jamaica Technology and Digital Alliance. And if you're not a member of the JTDA, please become a member today. It is a society for everybody that wants to be involved with anything technical, right? And we have another Sheldon here, Sheldon Provost from Amazon Web Services. Now, people know Amazon for shopping online and all of that, but probably, if not their biggest, but probably the second biggest revenue source is Amazon Web Services. All developers right across the world, including Jamaica, are building applications and interacting with Amazon Web Services. All right, so I'm going to start with you, Chris. Just give us a background in terms of who you are, NCS Enterprise, what you do there, and we'll take it from there. Go ahead.
Yes. Thank you very much, and it's good to be here. Good to be on with the other Sheldon and Jason. I want to congratulate them on the tremendous work that they have been doing. So I in addition to the sporting background, as you mentioned, four-time Olympian, but let's leave that alone for today. Mm-hmm. I come from a banking background, and it's hard to think of many more areas that have been so impacted by technology generally than in banking. I was very much involved in thinking through, developing, introducing technology-driven banking products in Jamaica, all the way through thinking through digital wallets, how that would work. All the way back to legislation to support it and so on, quite apart from the technology. And in 2008, I essentially went out on my own and created a financial services company called NCS eMoney Services, which is is 2008 now, and it had the E in it because what we are talking about today, what we are seeing now, I saw 13 years ago clearly. So that's how we started with that. And the pandemic has given us a push, but I work now very much in financial services, but with a heavy fintech push. That is to say, financial services that are empowered heavily by not just algorithms, but artificial intelligence and technology generally, which
Heavy
creates all
stuff.
opportunities, and it's something for us to discuss as we go along. Thank you.
Excellent. Sheldon, Amazon Web Services. Tell me, so you have a very interesting job. Those are one of the future jobs that what is your current title? I have it here,
Principal hardware
what is it?
engineer.
Principal hardware.
engineer. Yeah.
Yeah, principal hardware engineer. Tell us about your job. And tell us who you are and about your job at Amazon Web Services.
Yeah, I'll start with Amazon. So technically, I can't tell you what I do day to day in any specifics. What I am allowed to say is we make custom hardware for accelerating web applications. So a large portion of apps and large-scale web services use Amazon in the back end. You know, a lot of people probably don't realize it, but most of the way to do it with your phone or go through Amazon, or I guess to be realistic, and Azure as well. So most of my career has been split between signal processing, which is speech recognition, computer vision, biosignals, that type of stuff, and hardware design to support signal processing and artificial intelligence, machine learning, and things like that. In my academic career, it was more focused on signal processing. In professional career, I was more focused on high performance compute. So I've worked at several hyperscale companies building custom hardware for data center applications. Everything from fintech to IoT to even generic customer service type stuff. I even worked on self-driving vehicles, so I do have a strong background in robotics as well. But at Amazon, it's primarily custom hardware for high performance compute and acceleration.
Thank you very much, Sheldon. And Jason Scott, Deputy President, Jamaica Technology.
Hi, everyone. So yeah, I'm the Deputy President of the JTDA. We're really involved in empowering people and companies with technology, or through technology. And one of the things that we're looking to do is to ensure that, you know, we are on the cutting edge, have the cutting edge people on the team, so that we can help make informed decisions, advising companies where they should be going, keeping CIOs, CTOs updated, ensuring that all our members are trained on the newest and latest technology, as well as advocating on behalf of IT professionals, so hardware and software, when it comes to matters of government. So stuff like NIDS, ENDS, the Cybersecurity Act as well. That's really what we do at the JTDA. And in my 9 to 5, I'm the head of digital transformation for Grace Kennedy Insurance segment. So looking at improving the workflows of the company, looking at involving AI and machine learning when it comes to automation of processes, speeding up claims and underwriting processes, as well as getting people insurance from 0 to 100 in like 5 minutes.
Thank you, Jason. No, we have a lot of students here listening to us, and we want to understand your journey in terms of how you got there. But at the same time, the journey that you took, we're not sure if that's the same journey that we'll be recommending at this time. Before I go into some of the questions, I'm glad you laughed, Jason, because the technology. Do we spend 4 years in university, or do we spend 2 years and do certification courses and all that? But the BPO sector, right, in Jamaica, just to speak about that sector, so we understand and where the opportunities are. The business process outsourcing sector, Jamaica has 4 of the top 10 global BPO companies in Jamaica. So now in Jamaica, we like to get the other 6, probably in another 2 years. Jampro been on a roll with that. The sector actually employs in Jamaica over 43,000 individuals, with approximately 75 entities operating. 75 to 80% of GSS are servicing the BPO segment. That's a traditional BPO segment that we know. And we have another 20 to 25% in the knowledge process outsourcing sector. And then we have another, I guess that would be about 10% whatever, in the ITO, information technology outsourcing sector. Now, my firm, Innovate 10X, is actually, I'm a member of GSS. I fit into the ITO outsourcing. So many of you who look into being entrepreneurs or starting own business, the GSS is a good place for you to register and get started. They do have benefits. They mentioned some of the benefits here because there's funding from IA, Inter-American Development Bank, in funding skills development for the sector. These things are real. I actually have benefited from that. I've sent people on training. I've gotten reimbursement for training that has been provided by being a part of the GSS sector, right? So there's also emphasis in growing this sector, and particularly we want to make sure that we are producing the graduates that will feed this industry. So, and interesting, I'm gonna just one example here because we speak about robotics, and I wanted to start there, but I'm telling my experience. And Jason used to work one of the founding members of Innovate 10X. I mean, so glad for your contribution. But if you remember, I went to Las Vegas and was introduced to a robot called Liz. That was a humanoid robot, and she was at the Las Vegas, the big conference. What's the name of the conference again?
Yes.
CES.
Yeah, man.
Electronics show.
Yes, man. A big show there, man. And she was at a booth. She was able to interact with me. She was introducing me to her family. There were a lot of mini robots at the time. See the robots up here that she had. And she was telling me about their capabilities and her capabilities of being able to work as a receptionist. And she did quite a good job with me. And I said to myself, whoa, I need to bring that to Jamaica. So we brought the robot to Jamaica, thinking I could have had the robot as my receptionist. And Jason was one of them who said stuff. He took it straight out of the box. But the robot, I mean, every single thing that we want the robot to do, it's several lines of code that have written. And I would not reach a stage where it was a matter of that she was learning by herself. I mean, to the point where we had an opportunity to present at a regional conference where the Prime Minister was going to be there. And we were training the robot on recognizing the Prime Minister. We showed all kind of different pictures and videos and you know, she was calling the Prime Minister, bro, God, everything. And when we finally got the Prime Minister there and, you know, the robot had the audacity to look at Bro God and say, who are you? Right? And I was so embarrassed. And apparently the lighting at the event wasn't good enough.
Yes.
Right? So needless to say, I do not have Liz working as my receptionist.
But at least I believe you.
No, well, I had to send her to UTech. She's at the UTech lab, and I now have the students there, right, programming Liz, and hopefully they can make her smart. So,
well, just a quick aside. It's not just the lighting, right? I've been doing computer vision for more than 20 years. A large part of the problem, believe it or not, is just simple bias training. Most of the data sets are based on people with lighter skin. Mm-hmm. So even to this day, if I walk into any video conferencing system, the color balancing has me as a blob in the corner if it's a group of people and I'm the only black person there. Another example would be if you look at the Xbox Kinect from mostly like about 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. When it first launched, it could not recognize people with darker skin.
And that is still a concern.
People who built the thing considered that. So that's a huge problem in tech. You know, while you're in Jamaica, you don't really have to worry about that. But when you're in the US, weird things like this pop up all the time.
Yes.
Especially in AI. I know this is a bit of an aside, but even things like
I think it's an important point though, Sheldon, because you may remember, I can't remember the name of the company now but a company that was using facial recognition to help with the hiring decision. And suit was brought against them because there's some inbuilt, not intentional, inbuilt bias.
Yes.
That reflected in the hiring versus, so it read your face and then decided if you're smart or not. So putting it simply.
Yes.
And so that's one of the issues. Yes.
Yeah, they do what you tell them to do.
That's such an important point. Yeah, that's such an important, as opposed to our generalized intelligence, who said, okay, so he's black, but he has a head and 2 legs and 2 arms, and he must be a person.
Yes. But do you see a robot taking over the function of a receptionist? in a complete sense of the word. Not talking being an assistant, that you could be totally dependent on a robot.
Yes, there are plenty of virtual assistants right now. Everything from transcribing your live meetings. That's another problem. Speech recognition is mainly American males. So anybody with an accent is not going to understand you very well. So
That's
speech
right.
Some of
recognition
them have been
is
hiring
another thing.
Jamaicans though. It's an option, you know. What they call it,
Yeah,
West
but-
Indian English or something. That's crazy.
Yeah, so it's getting better. But realistically, if you look at the data sets, a lot of them available are for American English and more importantly,
Got
American male English.
So
But
they're-
that aside, transcription services are available. Virtual assistants have been available for a very long time because it doesn't take that much to do it now, especially with deep fake and other video generating programs. You can generate a more realistic looking avatar. Because before it used to be, cartoonish looking things that you're interacting with. Now it's something that can actually look like a human. And they've been passing the Turing test for years now. Turing test is whether you can't distinguish between whether it's a human on the other end or a machine. So for basic conversation and just basic simple question and answer and interaction from generated video, that's been around for a few years now. So it's not
Jason,
a stretch to implement it and start replacing assistants.
Thank you, Sean. Jason, I wanted to speak about your journey from because you seem like you're still a very young man. I don't see any gray hairs there, right? So your journey to where you are right now, and also how would you advise others? How do you change your journey if you're doing it all again?
So my journey was pretty unique. Actually, went to high school. I never did comp sci in high school. I never did IT in high school. I did all the sciences. So I did chem, phys, bio, math. And then when I started UA, I switched to comp sci in my second year because I saw all the comp sci people were having fun. They were like playing games in the lab and playing StarCraft, and they were playing all these games. I was like, yo, how do I want to play games? They say you have to join the comp sci. So I switched to comp sci. And they taught us in first year, they taught us, Python, basic data structures, that kind of stuff. Second year, they taught us, algorithms and networking and, about to write our own network protocol, etc. But the thing that really got me sticking in ComSci was the hackathons. So I entered my first hackathon in second year. It was the Slash Roots hackathon at the time. Big up to Matthew Macnon anywhere he is. He's in Boston. And I entered the hackathon. It was an agri-tech focused hackathon where you're supposed to build some solution to help farmers solve some problem. And me and my friends, we built an app. We presented it, and we came second. We then proceeded to go to the regional finals in Suriname. They flew us up to Suriname. We went to Suriname, and we presented again. And this time we came first. So we won the regional finals. They gave us money to help fund the project some more, and that really was the incentive for me. It was I get to travel with tech, write some code, win a competition, travel. And when we came back to Jamaica, and we wanted to work with UWE, the department, they were very open and very welcoming. So the lecturers, I remember in particular, Dr. Busby Earl, Professor Core. And Bain, when he was there, those lecturers reached out to us and they gave us practical projects. So they said, hey, I remember one of the projects that we got was how we can help the clinic with their medical records and whatnot. This was before HIPAA and all these things. So, built a front end for them, built a registration portal for them, all that kind of stuff. So that's really where my background came from. And then I eventually got funding to start a company, following much in Mr. Stokes' footsteps. Built a mobile payment platform called Blaze. That was 2030, and we went head to head against Quisk. We went head to head against MP that G had at the time. And we hit market, and then DOJ dropped the bomb on us, and we said, hey, you have to be regulated and partner, blah, blah, blah. So from there, since our names were out there, we got a lot of, contracts to develop other systems and such. But the main thing the main thing I would change is I would focus more on working with my lecturers on their projects, because all the lecturers in UA are UTech as well. They're doing, some of them want to continue to become, PhDs and become professors. In order to do that, they have to write papers. in writing the paper, they have a problem that they need solved. And as a student, if you could work with them to solve those problems, it really gives you a more hands-on approach to when it comes to like software engineering in my specialty, and with others like Dr. Ashley Taylor at UWI, who does UX and UI and game design. So you once you find a lecturer that's sort of doing what you want to do, what I recommend is that you stick close to them, ask them if they have any projects. Sometimes you can get paid for the projects, other times you don't. And then you just keep on working them to get that done.
Thank you, Jason. No, Chris, in terms of, well, not your journey, but what would you recommend for those who want to get to IT now? What would you recommend as their journey? Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Sheldon. I want to speak to the folks who are listening and trying to get something from this. First thing that I want to say is that AI and technology is not going to get rid of jobs. The number of jobs in the universe is not going to decrease. It's actually going to increase. Some of us remember when email was coming, oh my God, it's the end of paper. We haven't been cutting on more trees than ever. So what we see now is that existing businesses are changing what drives them from below towards more technology. And when I say technology, I don't mean using an email instead of writing a memo. I mean the actual systems, like the core banking system. My core banking system now is firmly in AWS, all right? As I'm sure are many thousands or millions of core banking systems, right? So I don't need, my CTO doesn't need to have Jason's experience, but he needs to understand security. He needs to understand the technology behind it. He doesn't have to be an expert writer of code, but he needs to understand it so that he can convert his knowledge to deliver the service properly and to deliver it properly in the first place and to improve our customer service and our customer experience. And this is an important thing. Not everybody has to learn to write code. In fact, most don't. What you need to do is understand what the technology does. So, for example, as we speak, I am moving from 100% cashiers to within the next 24 months to have about 70% of my transactions being done by smart kiosks. I don't want to use the word ATM. It's a smart interactive thing that you could call it a robot. That's just the outside, but the technology underneath is the same. So I've said to my folks, look, there will be more jobs for you, but they'll be different. In other words, I don't need you doing the same repetitive thing all day. By the way, Sheldon, the same can be said about the call centers. All right, because that's still a low-end job, and I want to see our Jamaicans and our students, who I know are among the brightest in the world, further up the food chain in terms of what the service that they can offer and the funds that they can make. So those same former cashiers are now being trained in customer service. But in customer service, they have to be able to help the customer download the app, set it up, and how to understand how to navigate it. And if it crashes, they don't panic. They know what to do, either through the service or do it themselves. So that skill set becomes important. So it's not so embrace it, whichever field you decide to go into. Even if it is publishing, believe me, embrace it, learn from it, and be able to leverage it to improve your position. Do not step away from it. At the same time, last point I want to make is that we need to offer more people like Jason into the global community, into the world. That is people who are highly trained in STEM and can work for Amazon and can work for Facebook. And more importantly, as Jason said, find domestic solutions. You don't have to go and work for one of the big, these mega software companies. Find a domestic solution to help a farmer. Somebody's in the pharmacy business, that's wide open. Banking, insurance, as you said, Jason. Apply yourself locally to finding local solutions with that skill set. And that is, I want to encourage the universities to have a partnership between business and the universities to identify what skills they need and make sure that is trained so that we use those folks and don't have to send away to India for a whole bunch of folks to come up here and redo our systems. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Very important point that, to get into IT, You don't necessarily have to code. That's very important. The other thing is that I'm seeing as a fact, 90% of future jobs will require some aspects of STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So you don't want to be in that 10% because those are probably the low end jobs. Sheldon, so you are in Amazon. I'm sure there are a lot of students looking and wanting to know how you got there and what kind of advice would you give the students who want to work in for Fortune 500? Certainly Amazon isn't probably top 3 in terms of most successful technology in the world.
Yeah,
So
they're one
your
of
story.
the few $1 trillion companies now. So
Wow.
it's a whole new, I guess it carve out a whole new sector for $1 trillion company, $1 trillion valuations. But so I will disagree slightly with Chris and Jason. So I didn't mention this in my intro, but I am responsible for the digital transformation of the Woolmer schools. And as a consequence of that, I mentor about 40 or 50 university students, UTech, UA, and a bunch in the US in engineering and computer science. So I have seen firsthand, oh, and I used to teach undergrad engineering as well. So I know a thing or two about engineering education. So I've seen firsthand Jamaican education versus top tier American education. And in American education, it's a whole spectrum, everything from community college all the way through to Ivy League, right? So there's a huge gap there. And what I have been recommending to students, especially the ones who say, I want to go back and build something at Jamaica, is if you can, go to a school abroad, get the training, do a couple of years work experience, then go back to Jamaica. Because you will be able to contribute significantly more if you follow that path. Now, that being said, I think there are plenty of opportunity to increase the capabilities of what is being taught in our schools locally. And you have to start at a young level. I'm going to be honest with you. I think CXC and CAPE is doing a tremendous disservice when it comes to technical education in all our schools. The second point I want to make is none of this will work without infrastructure, right? If you don't have good electricity, if you're not on a lighter, you're not on a Wi-Fi, it's really hard to say you want to teach technology. It can be done, but it's going to be really, really hard. So a lot of things we've been emphasizing is significantly improve the infrastructure so you can enable other services, such as robotics, game design. These are all things we're deploying at Woolmer's right now. But to do it, you have to fix the electricity, you have to fix core networking, you have to fix Wi-Fi, you have to deploy a compute cluster, you have to find a cheaper source of electricity, you have to find some way to significantly reduce the internet cost. All of that while convincing teachers that, hey, you have to do something new. You can't keep doing the same old that you used to do. So we all have to realize as a country, there are huge gaps. So the stat I usually give people is, I came to the US about 25 years ago. And what I saw when I first came to the US in the schools there doesn't really exist on the island right now. I'm talking additive manufacturing, I'm talking 3D modeling. These are things that are done in high school 25 years ago in the US. And we're just barely scratching the surface right now. We're getting them done. So the first step for me is make sure our education systems, when it comes to technology, are on par.
So did you go to high school here any at all, or it was before?
Yeah. I finished fifth form here. I
Okay.
didn't get to go to sixth form.
Okay.
So
But then I want to
my
actually
advice
add on
is
to
this
what
is backwards from what you guys are saying. I do think because we have such a huge gap in the education at secondary level and to some extent tertiary level, that I recommend to students find a way to get the experience in the US and then come back to Jamaica and build something.
I must tell you, Sheldon, that may not be available to most of us, though. It's not like
Yeah.
Oh,
we're getting.
I understand.
Yeah, so we
That
want
being
to be
said,
we want to
though,
be very practical in this conversation. But Chris,
no, well, that's the thing. Every
Yeah.
single school has been online and offers free classes for the last 20 years. MIT offers MIT OpenCourseWare was from 20 years ago. All the lectures are online for free. So if
yes,
you really want to learn something, you can learn it from the best
I
schools
do
in the
agree with
world.
that. That's something that probably, Sheldon, you didn't really tell us where you end up in your dream job, and I want them to to say, and I'm hopefully there is still a path, even without getting that that visa or something like that, because I understand in this new economy you can actually be working from any and everywhere. So could we still be in Jamaica and be a part of that $1 trillion company?
Yeah, man.
It is difficult because I've been trying to arrange internship programs for Jamaican students for years. And there's the problem of not just visas and payment and things like that. So the arrangement I tried was they stay there and do it remotely. But a lot of these companies, their rules are if they don't have a presence in country.
Continue to try. Jason, you wanted to say something. Please go ahead.
Yeah, so in regards to that, while I was, lecturing loosely at UWI, I graduated and I went back to give back to UWI. A lot of my colleagues actually started working remote. So we had people working at Google, Amazon, WordPress, and Apple. They were working, based in Jamaica. So this is so.
How did they find you guys?
Pardon?
How did Google and those companies find you guys? What do you guys do to put yourself out there?
So one thing that we did, self-included, is we apply online. ZipRecruiter, LinkedIn, Glassdoor, stuff like that. But another big thing, which happened after I left UWI, is that the university itself would arrange for internships. So like internships with Goldman Sachs, internships with Apple and this other company, I can't remember right now. But the university UWI would arrange internships with these companies. And if it is that you were selected for the internship, you could go. And usually what happens is they love it. People love working with Jamaicans. So they're like, hey, after you graduate, here's a full-time job. So, that's one way to do it. Another way to do it is through contributing to open projects. So if you contribute if you go on GitHub, you create a GitHub account. I'm not sure if everybody here knows what a GitHub account is. GitHub is like a Facebook code. It's a code repository, but that's where software developers go to come to work together in a very loosey-goosey sense. If you contribute to a lot of repositories, so contribute means you volunteer your time to fix bugs or to contribute code. Some companies will look at your commit history and say, hey, you've been very active in this particular space. Do you want a job here? So that's one thing.
So that's a good use of your spare time then. Maybe cut down from the video games a bit and just start to contribute.
You never know. So that's one thing. And then the other thing which some people did was there are firms, I'm not entirely sure how they did it actually. There are firms out here that outsource work. So I used to work at a company called Real Decoy. Real Decoy is Canadian company based in Jamaica with a Canadian and New York office. And if you're lucky enough to find one of those companies out here in Jamaica, they pay in US, so you get that international exposure. And so when I was at Real Decoy, I worked with Cisco Foods, Walmart, Walgreens, Toys R Us before they went under, Home Hardware, companies like that. And then you could get scouted from, you could get
Real Decoy, yes.
From Real Decoy to go to those
other companies. Real Decoy takes on interns, right?
Yeah, they take on interns. They take on like 3 or 4 interns a year. I think one from each major university at least. So you can always check out for that. And they're hiring right now. I just saw Instagram post from them. They're hiring like 6 positions.
Yeah, man.
Chris. I think, I'd like to say, but that's cognizant of treat with the topic and the time. That what Sheldon Provost said is a reality. We recognize it, and it is true. Almost every high-tech company that I've done business with in the US and the UK, believe it or not, and I'd love to see a survey, has a Jamaican in the mix. And it's not long into the meetings where they say, where you come from? That's why they've gone off into that direction. But the fact remains, as you correctly pointed out, that is not available for the vast majority of Jamaicans. Those of us who live in Jamaica and have committed to that for our own personal reason, that this is where we live, and it comes with good and it comes with bad. We need to apply our minds to how is it that we can become excellent in Jamaica in this area, right?
Correct.
And the key point is that it cannot be for everybody, right? Ever since the reform of social secondary education in Jamaica, everybody is a high school. We can't even afford that. However, you will recall that and this is important for the policy persons at JAMPRA, and I hope they're listening or will listen. The Prime Minister has floated the idea of STEM-specific schools, maybe a half a dozen, that will be fully funded, fully supported, and with the proper not only facilities but also teachers and experiences and placement. And we really need to look at something like that, because not every high school, we can't afford a Bunsen burner in large places, or light, or the bathrooms. But as a national strategy, the idea of STEM-specific schools, where those who are inclined, regardless of background, would go to deepen that experience from the best teachers from around the world in the best facility, is something that Jamaica needs to do. It can't be that when you get your visa, all right, or if you can afford it, that's not good national policy. So I want to double down on that. Hope that the JAMPRA folks will take that up and take it forward. But it's an important part of our development, because that is where the world is going. And we have, like I said, the brain power here is as good as anywhere else. We are not, the American student is not brighter than we are, for example, right? So we need to give them the opportunity to create jobs at that level. Regardless of that, though, becoming familiar with studying, understanding the role of this sort of technology in your current business and how it can empower your current business is a live and open opportunity. There are best practices all over the world. Read, go online, have the experience, attend seminars. Being here is an important first step, and help yourself, because that, without doubt, I'm not predicting this. I'm saying we are in the midst of that digital pivot in the world, accelerated by COVID right now.
Yes.
All right. So it's a matter of how and when you jump on board and how you use it to your benefit.
So, okay, this is important. Thank you, Chris. In terms of the new IT jobs, I want to get down so everybody have a chance to kind of weigh in here. What are the technologies that are driving? I'm going to be very practical here as well. Chris, you brought it home. We're talking about our own Jamaican people. I want to be very practical here. What are the jobs that will be in demand? What are the jobs that if you study, if you understand how these technologies work, you can get a high-paying job. You can support your family. You can take your vacations. You can achieve that Jamaican dream, own a house, a car, whatever it is that you want. Tell me about those future IT jobs. Tell me about the skill sets you have, and what are some of the drivers behind that. Sheldon, I will start with you, sir, and then Jason, and then back to you, Chris.
All right. So the first thing we have to look at or recognize is, as I said before, Jamaica is 25-ish years behind, right? So it's not just about what works now. You have to think about when we catch up. So even though you can argue robotics, AI, and everything else, they will replace some jobs. Some industries will go away because of it, but it will also create other jobs simultaneously. So you have to think about a lot of the low-level coding jobs are going to disappear. It's already started with the concept of low code and no code, where AI writes a lot of the simple stuff. Similar with robotic farming. A lot of those types of manual labor jobs are going to go away. So AI right now is what I would consider to be commoditized. 20 years ago, you needed a PhD to do it. Nowadays, I teach 6 farmers at Woolmer's how to do facial recognition with AI right now, right? So it's at that level where high school students can start implementing these technologies. So I would recommend we don't think about what is available right now or 5 years, but really take a look at where we need to be 10, 15, 20 years down the road and what types of things we want to enable by then. I've been in the self-driving car realm for a couple of years now. Their whole goal is to get rid of taxi drivers. Will that happen? It's hard to say, but that's what all the companies are trying to do right now. We work in Jamaica. Self-driving cars don't really deal with potholes very well, so I'm not really sure how that's going to work. But eventually we'll get to that point. But really, what I want to get at is it's not just learn how to code. It has to be advanced coding. It's not just learn basic compute technology. It's really think about things like quantum computing, because that's going to be what's next. In terms of IT, technically, I don't do IT. The oversimplified, I make the things that IT people. So I'm not really the right person to tell you about IT management and that type of stuff.
Okay.
But based on all the things I've been designing over the last couple of decades, that need is growing for people just to understand the basics of sysadmin, network admin, and especially nowadays, information security is going to be big, because that's going to affect every single thing you do. People don't notice it yet. I mean, you saw the scandals. Scandals probably the wrong
Yeah.
word. The
Thank you.
COVID.
We're down to 5 minutes. Jason.
Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, thank you. Jason, in terms of, I mean, you work at Grace. I mean, what are the kind of jobs that you think, what are people looking for, and what are some of the technologies? Let's bring it back to as I said, bring it back locally to Jamaica. Go ahead.
So what people are looking for and what people need are two different things. And like I remember when we had that conference some years ago, Sheldon, when you were president of the GSS at the time, we had called it and we said, UX and UI designers would be the next big wave in the next 2 to 3 years, and we would call it correct. So I'd want to double down on that and say, the continued need for UX and UI designers or UX and UI engineers on a whole. So not necessarily, people who can, design the interface or whatever, but the full package person can design, implement, or someone who can implement and help design, for one. And then two, based on where the BPO sector is going and the KPO sector is going, we're looking more around data analysts or data tagging officers, I guess, as well as QAs. So a lot of quality assurance is going to be needed for a lot of these systems. A lot of these companies are going to start implementing. So I'm calling out those three: QAs,
Yes.
data processing associates. So these people are going to be people who just tag data, not necessarily doing a lot of processing or machine learning, algorithm development, or anything. But those three in particular: UX, UI engineers.
Thank you, Jason.
And data.
Yeah, man. Chris, what are you looking for? I mean, if they want to work with your organization,
right? So what I'm looking for now is people that come. Well, I already mentioned a general understanding of it. So even if you're a salesperson out in the field, you understand how the technology works. But what I'm looking for right now, actually actively, are persons with the skill set to design solutions to business problems. I know the technology is sexy, but that's just a tool, So I describe the problem and they go in their toolbox and they know what to take up because they've had the training and the exposure and the experience writing code, which is or finding the solutions, which is important. And let me stick with financial services again. We are moving in, for example, in Jamaica to our own digital currency, where there's a sandbox for that. People need to understand how that works, and financial services companies need to understand how that works, what kind of apps they can develop, services that they can offer, how they can use big data. I'm generating thousands of transactions every day. How do we use that big data queries, algorithms on top of artificial intelligence to be able to make decisions about what products we target at what persons? And this has to be at the company level. So if you're talking about really high-skilled, in-demand, live well kind of jobs, it's a full toolbox that would allow you to solve these problems for businesses in Jamaica.
Thank you, Chris. We're coming up to our last minute. So just to wrap up what we've heard, yes, the AI, there are quite a few jobs that will be replaced, but at the same time, the net effect is actually more jobs being created as a result of technology, not less. And some of the hot jobs that are out there, people that can actually design solutions for businesses, that is hot. Certainly for Amazon, if you can build the tools that people like in the technology field will use, certainly that is a very hot area. And for Jason, UI designing and what was the other one?
QAs.
User experience, right?
QA, yeah.
Right, QA and so forth, quality assurance testing, all of these mobile apps and so forth being built. Thank you. It's now 3:45. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed the session. I'm sure that most of us can be reached via LinkedIn or, just look up on our profile. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Very well
Thanks,
done,
Alvin.
Sheldon.
Bye,
Thank you very
everyone.
much. Good to be on with you guys. Thank you.
Yes,
And I hope the
thank you.
students benefited. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Good, good.
I figure I'd hang around for a minute and answer questions.